Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday, September 6, 2024, and today I'll be talking about tips on drawing the eyes. And I was gonna do more videos about color and painting this week, but then we started talking about the facial features and can't leave out the eyes. So yeah, we talked about the nose and then like the mouth, and so this one will be at least a couple of videos because the eyes are complex also, like the mouth. So I'll start a 5-minute timer and let's get started. To begin with, let's focus on one. That's part of the complexity of the eye, is that there's two. But then let's focus on one and go from there. So if you do draw 2 points and then a line, and then if you find the center and then the thirds, let's look for a handy measuring device here. So that's half, about, and then this is like about thirds. That's the usual trick. So there's just one, and the height of it is different. But if you were drawing like the brow and like the eye socket area, the surrounding area, then you would have a better idea of how the eyes would fit. But I mean, they're different. But for now, we'll just do like a rectangle. And so if we put the iris in the pupil, well, before we even do that, let's just kind of indicate this a little bit. A lot of times you don't necessarily have to put this in first, because probably the outer shape is the important thing. So let's say that this is the inner corner, so this will be the person's left eye. You'll get that curve, and then just decide where the outer corner will be. So let's just pick something kind of like that. So this is pretty basic. You can find this on a bunch of tutorials easily, but it's good to go over. And then as far as like the size of this is the iris. It's about like that. I guess another third, like within the eye shape, right here. And then you can put in the pupil. So I'm gonna go over, because I was thinking to myself, it's pretty easy to find tutorials on drawing. However, they usually show you like one way of doing something, and think like what I can bring to the table is that there's like different ways of doing it. So this is one way. So yeah, that's the basic of that. So then once you kind of get this, you can draw. Let me put it down here. If you were to just draw like a rectangle, and right now we'll just go off of this one. And if you had like the center line here, you can do the basic outline. So that's 5 minutes. And yeah, it'll take more than one video for sure. In this one, I'm just gonna go over kind of the outline and the shapes. Then we'll start going into how to shade it, and then like expressions. So the main thing is that it's not in the center, and that this the iris and the pupil can sit like on that line there. Now here it was like in the center. I mean, you can, usually I'll put it like on, sitting on that line instead of the center. Just eyeball it. Yeah, that was, I couldn't help myself there. So that's another way. And then also, of course, because we could play around with like different, and then even if you don't have that center line, one, you can play with different shapes, but the main thing is to keep it from looking flat. You have to give it like a not have that be right in the middle. That looks flat, like it looks weird. And yeah, a lot of times you can just kind of build it just from this sort of simple thing. So with that said, you can start with the bottom line here and sort of do the same thing. So with just the bottom line, you can if you had like the inner corner, and then decide like where you want the outer corner to be, you could do it that way, and then just draw kind of an indication. But usually you'll need some kind of indicator, otherwise it's hard to line up both. So let's just start to sort of move into like drawing both eyes. So to do that, again, sticking with proportion, so the basic proportion is, let's say you draw that horizontal line, same thing as what we went over, like the thirds. So if you find that space, the thirds there, so yeah, find the center. So a lot of times when you're drawing the face, you're gonna have that center line right here. And this is, for this example, we'll call this the eyes, although you don't have to do it this way. But then if you find like the thirds here, then you can put in the size. And so, especially for front view, it's good to know. So if I'm gonna just use this as the center line, then I'll draw the eye like this. So that's 5 minutes. So it's 10 minutes so far. Let's do another 5 minutes. And so if you put the pupils right here on that line, and then the iris, then that's the basic setup. So that's with this line being the eyes. And the guidelines are important because so your eyes don't look weird. Looks like they're actually like on the face correctly. Let's do this again, but then like kind of a different way to, let's just still say that that's the eyes, and then like that's the center line there. If this were the eyes, and we wanted to do it this way, you still need to place like the corner so that they're the right distance apart, because that's usually what looks weird. You kind of need like a little bit of the width of it, and then from there you can kind of don't have to draw everything in, but the pupils and stuff would still be, so you don't necessarily have to draw like every detail. So that's one way of setting that up. As far as, we'll kind of get into the eyebrows in a little bit here, like next. So a lot of times when you're drawing the face, like if you have a top and like a bottom line here, let's go this much. Let's see what's going on with this center line here. So a lot of times if you put this center line from this setup right here, that's going to be usually good for the nose. But then of course the eyes wouldn't be right here. So then, coming from like the video about like how to draw the nose, I would just divide it into thirds. So again, if this is the center here, that's about like thirds, meaning that this bottom third here is kind of the tip of the nose. If you can see that. And then from this, then you would place the bottom of the eye. And then the brow. So here we're not using or I find that it's easier to just put like the bottom, which is kind of why I was showing this part. So you still need to know the distance, the correct distance. between the eyes, and then and then the brows are like, the line is right here, the proportion, but then because of the shape of the eyebrow, like, you'll have different looks, and then they're gonna turn a little bit past the eye, not right in the center. It's like a little off center. And then this is just to give the illusion of like the eyeball within the socket and like the bone structure and stuff like that. And then as far as like nostrils, so that's 5 minutes. So this is the 20th minute, I think. These are just rules of thumb, like they usually line up like on the inner eye. But then of course if you're trying to do like a likeness, then you would use that as like measurement. So now let's move on to some different like angles of the eye. So again, let's set up the proportion. Well, okay. So here we just focused in on the eye and we used that center line just for the eyes. Now, if you drew it like this and then you think, well, I need to add like the eyebrow, like how do I know? Well, you can eyeball it. You can just, so to speak, you can just kind of draw it in, meaning that, yeah, the eyebrows just real quick, I'll go over it more, but in general, they're growing like this, and then they're gonna turn more right here, and they grow down like that. So they're going to turn a little bit past, not the midpoint, again, to make it look like the eyes are actually inside the eye socket. So you can either just decide where the eyebrows will be. The brow itself, a lot of times it'll be about like if you were measuring from like the top of the eye, just make it like a half an eye right here. If you want to sort of know the proportion. So just keep it within something like that. Like it's about a half eye, or maybe like a full eye if you measure from the bottom. But hopefully that makes sense. And then as far as like from the outer edge to this, it's like it's a half eye. So that's if you start with the eyes and then work your way out. But the other way would be if you worked from, let's just do that real quick right here. I'll do it right here. The other way would be if you start with the brow, then that would be like the outer edge. And then if you say that, let's say that you drew this and said that that was the hairline, then whatever this is, just put it down here. I guess I'll just do it like that. And then, so that's the hairline to the brow, to the nose. And then again, like draw the nose and then decide. So if you put this as like if you draw the nose and then the brow, you know that the eyes will have to be a little past that, like the structure of the nose is not going to be right up on the nose. It's going to be sitting inside the eye socket. So this way is about defining the structure around the eyes. Oops. Well, there you go. That's one way to draw it. Which is not a bad way. Sometimes I prefer to draw like everything else around the eye and then you end up with the eye, like draw the shadows and stuff. Sometimes that's just the best way to do it. Especially, I find that with painting, a lot of times you want to draw or paint like the values and then end up with the detail, like from general to specific. So that was another 5 minutes. This is, I'll do this and maybe another one, but I'll fill this like top half of the sketchbook page here, because I don't want to make the video too long, but I don't want to rush. So yeah, if you build it from like the structure from general to specific, then the eyes would fit in there, and you just kind of build everything else around here, which is good for like making the face look more solid. Whereas like this, sometimes you just want to, if that's the focal point, then you can just start with the eyes and then just kind of build out. But like if it's going to be pretty like not as detailed around there. So that's one way. And then let's say that you did have the eyes here, then yeah, just measure everything using the eye. So to get the brow, that's like a half. Let's see, from, yeah, like let's say you wanted a place where the nose would be. So from where this is, this is the brow line. Let's say that's, let's go ahead and figure out the measurement here. So that's 1. So that's like your thirds right there, and then 2, and then 3. Although that looks kind of long to me. So if that looks long, let's go with, probably because let's figure this out. So it should be the brow, I didn't measure it. So the brow is more like right here. So let's say you figure out the bottom of the eye here. So you see, like, so that's the eyes right there, and then from here, so that's not the bottom of the nose, that's the bridge. From here, and then, so that would be the bottom. And then, yeah, just kind of use the inner corner of the eye as a guide. So that's how to build it from, if you just start with the eyes. And then finally, for this video, let's do some like 3/4 view. So if you're doing the 3/4 view and you have this basic setup here, let's zoom in and let's find like the center here. So we were saying that, like, if you have a center and then have the thirds, you could make this be where the eyes, the center of the eyes are. Just play around with the proportions. There's not like it's not like a right way. It's what looks correct. They're just meant for guidelines if you are needing to adjust. Like, I needed to figure out some stuff here. So if you just draw this and you wanted to zoom in and not have it be this perspective, then I'm just going to say that this would be the eyes, and we'll set it up like the way that we set that up. So in the 3/4, if you were to move the center line of the eyes like to here and then divide it, you could do it that way. This isn't really the best way to do this, but this is, for some reason, this is how I set it up. So, so that's another 5 minutes. I'll start one more. So I made the boxes a little different here. So this one's smaller, and then I moved the center point to right here, which means that the nose is going that way. All right, so to do that, the basic shape of it is that, remember how right here it gets moved over to, same with this. So you're going to be seeing more of like the lid, the upper lid. And that's the basic shape of it. And then the pupils and the iris and everything gets shifted over. And looks elliptical. I usually do not set it up like this, but you can. I mean, I guess the point is that there's different ways. And part of why this is good to know is because if you're sketching stuff, you don't always set it up exactly the same way every time, because then the drawing can look kind of stiff. So what I mean is, a lot of times it's better to get the gesture correct rather than try to make the construction like fit the gesture. So what I mean is, like, sometimes if you're just drawing the face, this would be like setting up the gesture, and so you want to be able to draw the eyes and like the face with whatever gesture that you have, rather than coming up with a very structured. Now that can be good for, let's say, like if you're drawing a portrait and the person is sitting there, or like the reference, and they're not really moving, so that could be more a precise way of doing it. But like, let's say you are drawing an illustration and there's some movement, or like a comic or something, a lot of times you're not gonna, you need it to feel like the person's moving. So it's just kind of a general rule. And yeah, like if you start with the gesture, if I do it this way, I'm gonna say that that's the brow. And the reason the brow is good to use is because it's not moving, it's in place, and so you can figure out the perspective better. And then if that's the case, then you don't necessarily have to worry so much about the detail of the eye. But this is the same principle. Like, it'll have this kind of shape to it. In perspective. So this is just to get us started, and in the next video I will go into more detail about shading it. But I mean, the eyes usually is what makes the picture. So yeah, there's a lot going on here too, just like with the mouth. So that's another 5 minutes, and I'm gonna conclude today's video. And as I do that, yeah, just to kind of summarize, because we're heading into the weekend, I had started this week wanting to get into more color work, but I think that, one, we started talking about the facial features, and so you kind of have to like do all of it. Like, for example, like the ears, but I want to also like tie it together so that you don't just know like one thing to draw on the face, but like the whole head will look good. And then we'll also do some color work. I'll probably play around with that. But yeah, if you do this, just kind of look up reference if you want, or go in and add detail. For example, with this area, I mean, you can add like the mouth and stuff that we talked about, but hopefully this gives you some ideas. And yeah, before I sign off, thanks for supporting the channel, and have a good weekend. But I'll see you tomorrow, and until next time, keep on sketching.